welcome back. Delighted to welcome my next guest to Luck on Sunday for this season finale, the most successful amateur rider of all time, to put it quite simply, and one of the most successful amateur riders at the Cheltenham Festival of all time as well. He is, of course, Patrick Mullins. Patrick, good to see you.
Thanks so much for having me, Nick.
Not at all. And busy boy yesterday, Killarney to Kilbeggan and then back over here in a wretched journey on the plane. So we're very grateful to you for giving up your time. But people might assume these are quieter months for you. Not so.
No. August is probably our busiest month because we have all our winter horses come back in after Galway Festival. And it's always busy for us, you know. Over here you see the likes of Paul Nicholls and Nicky Henderson seem to take the summer off a bit, but in Ireland with Gordon and Joseph and Willie, we're just full tilt. We've had 100 horses in at all stages, so there's never a moment's let up.
And you obviously got Galway as that focal festival in the summer as well, which has become increasingly important to your team as well. We heard from Dermot Well was sitting in Dave's seat last week, and he rather ruefully said, well, it's Willie Mullins' territory now. Yeah,
like I remember growing up, obviously the plate and the hurdle were very important races. My grandfather had great success in them, and but we never really would have aimed around Galway, whereas now it's become, as you say, the focal point of our summer. So from after Punchestown we are aiming horses for Galway, and Willie has taken it a lot more seriously, as has the likes of Aidan and Joseph, so it's hugely competitive.
And is the business now more multi-dimensional than it was when even you started assisting your parents?
It's definitely busier. Like our summers were never as busy as they are now. I think summer racing has become a lot more important. I think they've done a great job watering tracks, keeping ground safe. We've got some great clerks of the course that have the tracks in pristine condition, and the prize money during the summer is good as well. So it offers a lot of opportunities for you know, horses that maybe can't be competitive during the winter.
You had two runners in yesterday's Ebor as well. Dear old Max Dynamite, former runner-up in the Melbourne Cup, and True Self. I thought she ran an absolute screamer. I mean, she looked like the likeliest winner at Furlong Out.
She did. Actually, myself and a friend bought her for... she was unsold at 20 sterling at a sale after being second in the three-year-old bumper. And we bought her. And my father saw her when she got off the box. And she was trio filly after having a hard race, going to sales, travelling to Ireland. And he said to me, please tell me you didn't buy her. So, of course, I moved her on quite quickly, and I haven't let him forget that. But she's been an absolute freak. You know, an Oscar mare. She ran a blinder. Donegal gave her a fantastic ride. Looked like she possibly just didn't stay, which, to be fair, Colin Keane had always been saying, you know, a mile and 2, a mile and 4, it was no problem to her. So we might possibly drop her back in trip, and her owners, Neville Eager, they get great sport out of her, and I'm sure there's more fun to be had with her.
For 20 grand, I mean, you got more than that for finishing 6th yesterday.
Yeah, well, it's 15, a bit less, but no, but it's brilliant. Like Neville and a couple of his friends, owner, and they get great sport out of her. You know, they go over with a group of fellas every day, and that's great to see.
Do you think you'll become more of a force on the flat? I mean, you've already had amazing success in some of the cup races, and know about the raids to the Melbourne Cup, which so nearly came off. Do you think it'll become a bigger and bigger part of the business?
In the longer distance races, you know, we're very lucky that we can buy good quality flat horses, go hurdling, and then if they don't make the cut as hurdlers, they can come back. So, you know, in the kind of mile and 6, 2 mile races, even back to a mile and 4 sometimes. But I don't see us being like Jessie Harrington or Joseph, you know, and having lots of 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds. I mean, what Jessie is doing is extraordinary with her 2-year-olds this year. No, we have a handful every year, but Willie made a decision a couple of years ago to concentrate on jumping, and I think that's what we'll do. And when they don't make the cut for jumping, we might bring them back for long distance flat races.
And from your own perspective, I said you're the most successful amateur rider of all time. You've won any number of Cheltenham Festival races and bumpers and hurdles and chases and what have you. Are there many personal riding ambitions that you've got left to achieve?
Lots, yeah.
Okay, yeah. What would be the top of the list?
Well, I'd love to win. I'd love to win the GBT in Galway. Ober McMahon's won it twice, and Jody Towning did it this year for Willie. So, unfortunately, I think that the winners seem to carry too little weight for me, which isn't ideal. But maybe one year, Willie won it with a horse called Paragon. He had 12 stone 7, but those days are gone, unfortunately. I was second in the Kim Muir. That's a race I'd love to win. I think Willie's never won a handicap chase at Cheltenham, so I'll probably have to start maybe getting off his horses in it. The Fox Hunters in Aintree, and I'd love to ride a winner in Toy before I retire. That'd be great. And I need one more title to beat Ted Walsh's record of
titles, even though you've way passed his record now. So are you up to sort of 600 odd now?
No, I'm in about 593 or 4. So
I'm all right. I'm within 5.
Yeah.
I'd have got that right on University Challenge, wouldn't I, Dave? Would you get 5 or 6 either way?
Yeah, probably. I don't watch it, but I imagine that's about right. Yeah.
But that is a remarkable total for an amateur rider,
yeah,
even though he's only an amateur by name.
It's astonishing. I don't know if you've got this question, Miley's planned, but I was quite interested, Patrick, to know what you would think about the changes that they made to the National Hunt Chase that were announced, that coming back in distance, obviously fewer obstacles, a higher qualification for the rider.
Yeah, like last year's race wasn't ideal. England is a very different country than Ireland, and I don't have a problem with a lot of the qualifications for the jockeys and the horses is fine. I have one question over the change in distance is the start of that race was a fantastic start. 3 furlongs, 3 fences. You could line up wide, go forward. If you jump well, you'd be able to get a position. You didn't mind lining up wide. The start now is 100 metres to the first fence, followed by a sharp, long downhill left-hand turn. So I wonder, is there going to be a funnel effect into the first bend? I wonder about that. And for me, if there is an issue with the formal chase, it's that it's a novice chase with 18 runners. Can you name me another novice chase with a full field? Not really. It's a handicap-sized field for novice horses. And a lot of them haven't run in handicaps. I would have thought perhaps bringing the limit from 18 down to maybe 14 would have created, you've less horses, so you've less fallers, but you have less pace because there's less horses, and you'd have more space at the fences. So
you're removing a little bit of the chaos factor?
That's
potentially
what I would have thought. Like, it's a handicap-sized field. You don't see the Arkle, the JLT, the RSA with 18 runners. You see them with 8, 10, maybe 12. That's what I would have thought. But look, I'll be very interested to see how it goes. Perhaps the start will be fine. But I think I'd be interested to see how it goes. Yeah.
Did you get asked what you thought?
We actually made, myself, Derek and Jamie, through our amateur association, sent a letter asking to be involved in any discussions, and we got an email telling us about a week ago, telling us what the changes were going to be and that they were going to be released next Monday, but we weren't asked as such, which was a little disappointing. I mean, I know Ruby feels the same as I do about the start, and you would have thought perhaps talking to people that are riding in the race would have been beneficial.
That's quite an interesting point, I think, here, Dave, and one that's worth picking up on, because I think it's right, as a regulator, you have to be quite bold, and sometimes you need to shut out the surround sound. But in an instance like this, where Patrick's brought up a very specific point about safety, then I think you need to make sure you listen to experienced constituents carefully.
Yeah, I've got to be careful what I say here. I think that the BHA often consult the people or try and appeal to people that there's not really an awful lot of point in trying to do that. And I think that why you would not consult an amateur jockeys association and the leading practitioners therein when what you've just said about the start is something that hadn't occurred to me. I was asked to comment.
Nor me.
I was asked to comment.
I haven't ridden in the damn race, have I? So
I was asked to comment about the changes, and I thought, and I sort of said, well, yeah, distance, meh. The qualification of the jockeys, I certainly think is a good thing, but I've no idea about how the start would work out, and I do wonder if many people making the decision would appreciate that either.
And I could be wrong. The start might work out.
But why? And we had a meeting about the compressed foam a few months ago. James Willoughby and I were at it, and we were invited by the BHA to contribute to that in the future. We've not heard a dicky bird since then, and I think that I think it's a nonsense not to consult leading amateurs. They're not giving you the rule book to write, but why would you not seek, even if you choose to take your submission, screw it up into a ball and volley it out of the window, at least why would you not seek the views of people like Patrick? It just seems a nonsense to me to present it. You know, you're too polite to say this, but what they've done is to present a fait accompli to you, and that's ill-advised, isn't it?
I think on a wider point, I wanted to ask you the extent to which you feel the responsibility as an ambassador for the amateur branch of the sport as well. And I know I say you're only an amateur in name, and you're different from other amateurs because you get lots of opportunities on lots of really nice horses, and you've conceded that readily in the past, and you're better than the vast majority of them as well. But do you feel that it's up to people like you and Derek O'Connor and Jamie Codd to sort of almost fly the flag and say, we're very good at what we do and we want this branch of the sport to continue?
Yes, of course. Now, we're also very aware that we get some fantastic opportunities as amateurs over in Cheltenham, so we're very grateful for that. And like I said, I think the changes aren't, I don't think you can complain too much of the changes, but yeah, I think obviously we've been at it quite a long time, and we have to try and represent it well, yeah.
Now, I wanted to ask you a bit more about riding winners at the festival in and of themselves, because it seems to me that for your family, perhaps more than any other, this is something that is just burned so deeply in you that not riding winners at the festival was just not a possibility.
Well, I think that's probably like everyone who rides wants to ride a world winner there, yeah. To win one when I was 18 was fantastic with Cousin Vinny, because my father always kind of was saying to me, you're not going to be at this very long because you're quite tall, and so that was that took a huge weight off his shoulders, I suppose. But it's never enough. Riding one is never enough. Even 2 or 3 or 4 is never enough. I see Nina and Jamie have had 7 or 8, and you always want more, especially when you have good opportunities every year. So I want another one, as everyone does.
What's your earliest memory of it as a child?
Of Cheltenham?
Yeah.
Watching Florida Pearl win the bumper with Richard Dunwoody, and at the time the excitement was having Richard Dunwoody riding for us. I wasn't allowed to be there. I was told I wasn't allowed to go until we had a runner in one of the 3 main races. So I got over there for Florida Pearl's 99 Gold Cup. And going over there as an 11-year-old child, and Florida Pearl was our main horse, and he always won. And he'd fallen at Christmas, which was the shock of shocks. And but he won the Hennessy then. And then for him to get beaten in the Gold Cup, I just couldn't believe it. There was actually a picture of us walking back in, and just as an 11-year-old kid, it was my first proper experience at Cheltenham, and it was disappointment. And that's actually a good way, because there's far more disappointment there than the opposite.
For most people, more than you, to be fair.
Well, yeah, but we do bring quite a lot of horses as well, so we probably lose more races as well.
And Cousin Vinny, I mean, we just saw a clip of you there riding Cousin Vinny to success. Did that go by in a bit of a blur, or is the recollection pretty good?
The recollection is pretty good. There was a day after they called off the racing win. There were 10 races. It was very dark. My memory of the race is that everything went smoothly, and I remember getting a great position. I remember being behind Ruby, following him, and it took forever to get up the hill. And no, it was definitely something I won't forget.
It always strikes me whenever you're interviewed how often you reference Ruby, how often you reference him not only as a brilliant jockey, but also as a source of wisdom and counsel. How much are we going to miss him in the saddle? What's going to be the net effect of his departure from race riding at the highest level? He
can't be replaced, because I don't think any jockey will do both countries like he did. To have the top Irish yard and the top English yard is unique in my time anyway. But even in the yard, outside of a jockey, and he still comes in on work mornings, he's still heavily involved, but he brings so much more to the yard in that he's always very enthusiastic. You can ask him any question. He'll always give you a thoughtful answer, not just he won't just fob you off. He is irreplaceable, yeah.
Because sometimes he can kind of give the impression, which I always think is misleading, whether it's deliberate or not, I don't know. Sometimes he gives the impression of being a bit kind of nonchalant. But when you actually see him engaged with the horses. There's no one who's more enthusiastic with the planning and the mechanics of it all.
Oh yeah, like even at home, writing a bit of work, you could pull up and he's like an 18-year-old kid sometimes. You can see it in his eyes and his face. He thrives off it, and he's a very unique man.
Were you really surprised when he retired?
Oh yeah, completely. He hadn't said anything. I'd actually said to someone about 3 races beforehand that they'd asked me about Ruby retiring. And I said, no, she's not retiring. Of course not retiring. Look at all the horses she has to ride next year. So completely caught all of us on the hop. I mean, you could even see Willie's surprise on his face on RTE. So I couldn't believe it, yeah.
But you've got such a great string of jockeys there that he's not replaceable, but you can go into the next season with confidence. Oh,
definitely. Paul Townend is an incredible jockey, and I think the year before last, when we were missing Ruby for a lot of it, I think we had a record amount of winners and a record amount of winners in Punchestown. So Paul is well able to fill his boots.
And your dad seemed particularly delighted for Paul's Gold Cup win. You could sense that coming out of every pore, really, as well as his own, as much as it was for himself, really. This long-held ambition to win the Gold Cup, and he'd been second in it half a dozen times, and he almost seemed as happy for the rider as he was for his own achievement. Yeah,
I mean, sure, it's been a long time coming, and no one is entitled to a Gold Cup, but after all those seconds, it was a long time coming. But especially for Paul, obviously on the horse as well. And look, what happened, but. Even the next day in Punchestown, he came out and rode the treble, and then to win the Gold Cup on album photo, I mean, you saw that the buzz that Paul got out of it. It was incredible, yeah.
I'm fascinated to know what the sort of organisation is like at the yard, because Ruby will always say that Willie's sort of organised chaos, if you like, and that his mind is a sort of amazing sort of clutter. Yet, how can you be disordered yet brilliantly organised at the same time? Is that just the partnership between you and your father and your mother? How does that all work?
Well, he works the way he works. He doesn't work like other people, and he's very difficult to work with. But he has a great back team. My mother. My mother handles a lot of the yard. Dick Dowling, our head man, John Codd, Rachel Robbins, Virginia Basco, they handle the yard. And he's set up a routine, a system, and everyone knows their part. David Casey, Joe Sharp, Ruby are a huge help to him in the office with entries, declarations, dealing with owners. So it's all departmentalised, and he comes in and puts the finishing touches on top then.
So essentially he's got all the sort of craftsmen in place doing their bit, and then he brings in the kind of flourish. Yeah. He's got the bit of genius, the bit of the touch. Is that one way of looking at it?
He's set it up in such a way that everyone knows what they're meant to do and how to do it. And he can change his mind the last minute. He doesn't make his mind up until the last minute, and then he can still change it. So he keeps you on your toes, all right, yeah.
And why is that? Just because he prefers to work on instinct, do you think, rather than precision?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's nothing written down like on the gallops. I've been other places there, and I was in Gosden's, and everything. The gallops are recorded, and the work riders are done out the day before. And no, we do that on the morning. So Willie will go up to the gallop, he'll look at the horses, and he'll say, "We're not going to work that this morning," even though it might be running next week. And I might change the rider, I might put a heavier rider on, or a lighter rider on, or a kinder rider on. So that's all off his eye. He likes to train off his eye, which I think his father was like as well. And it's hard, sometimes it can be hard to get your head around it, but he has a very annoying habit of being right.
Is it one that you share?
I'm not sure about that. You have to ask someone else.
But is your method? Do you think your methodology would or will be the same? Are you similar?
In ways, I think I'm probably a bit more punctual and a bit more organised, but some people might tell you different.
And you say you've got a lot of ambitions to fulfil still in the saddle. In somewhere in your mind, is there a point where the priorities will change?
Not at the moment. My father wrote till he was 40. Riding is a great way of life. You go out, you get on a horse, you ride it, you come back in, you might have to deal with an angry owner or a trainer, but you walk away. You don't have to go home and deal with bills, deal with staff, deal with injured horses. So there's a lot less responsibility, there's a lot less pressure. and I'm enjoying it at the moment. I'm enjoying observing my father train and learning from him. So I'm in no rush. Marriages and mortgages and training can all come in the future.
For the moment, Patrick Mullins, thank you very much indeed. I know you're joining us at the end of the programme.
Yeah.
David, you'll be back as well a little bit later on. Indeed. We'll be doing our talking points right at the end of the show today, and Patrick and Dave will be joined then by